Welcome back. This is Scott with Sigma Signals. Now, if you're part of our group, our Telegram group or Discord group, you would have gotten our 6 hour and our 12 hour. Now, if you're just paying attention to the YouTube, you may have missed them. The 6 hour came in around here, and the 12 hour came in over here. This is very significant because the 12 hour rarely signals in one direction or the other. So if you look here, it signaled first long back in late September, and that was of 2020, and then didn't say short until April of 2021, and then it didn't say long until July. So this going short is very significant. I put in some very basic support and resistance lines, and the reason I'm doing that is because the complicated technical analysis is not something that the average investor is looking at. So you want to kind of look at what the majority of the money is looking at, the majority of the people that are looking at the signals. And these ones are very simple, very easy to follow. You don't even need to draw a line. You can just see the general look of it. And you see if when this one broke, when it finally broke completely, that's actually the moment that the signal set short, which is funny. And then it bumped up above it and then came crashing back down through it. And this is very common. I've seen this many times where you have a dump and then you have what they call it a bounce back up above where it even said to go short. And I don't really fully understand why that happens, but I've seen it happen so often, I'm not surprised by it anymore. So we've gone through this trajectory. We're seeing a short here. That doesn't mean that it's going to go straight down. It just means that now the momentum is in the short direction on the 12 hour. Now on the 1 day, it still hasn't shifted short. So that's something to take into consideration. And we do have a significant support line. So this was resistance, 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 and then now it's become support. So right now, if it was to drop, we'd have support around 33,000. And also there's a lot of buys and sells in this area. So this, if you follow across here, right where it is right now, all the way through to where this green line is, this is all support and resistance. So a lot of people bought and sold in this area. That means that it could actually reflect off of something here or take its time before it settles down, finding support lower down. So that's what I have for you on Bitcoin. Now, I did want to mention 2 or 3 other things that we're looking at. If you know, I was a big bull on ADA for the longest time. Then I had a long conversation with a close friend of mine, and he explained that although ADA is technically superior, it's got a lot of support in terms of investors and speculative investment. It's not getting real world adoption yet. And supposedly, the last September the 12th, it came out with smart contracts. The difference is that other cryptocurrencies and ecosystems have already made that leap, and they're already functioning in that way. So you have something that is technically better, but yet not actually hitting the market yet, versus something like Solana, that has already proven itself as a DeFi platform, and it's getting a lot of traction in the last few months. And you've seen that with the price just skyrocketing. So I want to touch on those. I'm actually not investing in Sol at the moment, not because I don't believe in the project and I don't see its value, simply because it's just poor timing at this moment because of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin drops, the entire market gets scared and goes south. And this is happening right now, probably off the news of the large company in China that's imploding. And because of that, people are adverse to risk. So the stock market's taking a bit of a dump, and Bitcoin in response is also losing liquidity. So let's look at the other ones. The one that we were looking for originally. So what I did is I was heavily into ADA, and I sold my portfolio of ADA, and I bought Sol at the time. And I got to show you what happened, exactly where it happened, and why I did it. So it happened. It was at two. It was in the 280s, and the reason for that is it had lost support on a very basic. Let me go here. Trend line. So I drawn one of these basic lines like this, and it had broken the support, and it was trying to get back up through it, and it wasn't making it. So when that happened, I'm like, you know what? That's not a good sign. At the exact same moment in time, I think it was the 6th that I did it. Yeah, maybe it was over here, a bit farther over. At the exact same moment, Solana was showing support. It just reflected off of support. So I switched horses. So I sold at 285, 286, somewhere in that range. And then I bought Solana. And now there's a lot of lines here. I'll go over those in a second. That was September 6th. Where's September 6th? September 6th is up here. So what had happened in this case is it was showing support right there. And let's do a little drawing here. So it was one of these. Ooh. So on that moment, I sold my ADA and I bought SOL, and then almost like the next day, it just followed through and went crazy all the way up. And obviously, it had this crazy spike down, but then it continued on up all the way up to here, and then it showed that it was breaking support again itself. So I switched horses once more, and instead of buying anything else, I couldn't find something that I want to buy. So what I did is I went into USDC actually, and I did that in the 180 range. So it was probably something like this. And when I saw that it was breaking support, I sold. I think it was 180, 183, something like that, and then it started going down. And I was like, oh, you know what? This would be a great time to buy at between 129 and 131. So I put in buy orders, and they took forever to get taken. They was teasing me a few times. It finally got taken, but the problem was that it blasted right through all of the different supports that I'd drawn, and I realized that the market was not, this had its run, so now it's got to kind of relax and come back, and it wasn't showing strong support for the three lines that I'd drawn that come way, way, way back. So I actually sold my position. I bought it at 129 and I sold it at 125, 124, and it continued to drop. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then it suddenly pumped up, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then it hit this resistance line and then came down. So again, if you look really closely, it actually blasted through, really small amount, but it blasted through those three lines. Still resting above it right now. And there's this argument to be said that every time it does this, the period between which it touches this long line here doubles. So the first one, it was 12 days. This one's 12 days between these two. This one's 24 days, and theoretically, there could be another one that is 48 days. So a month and a half, where it'll be in the 220 range. It'll go crazy high, like 375, and then come all the way back to 220. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, if this pattern repeated itself one more time, 48 days later, the bottom of it, next time it touches, would be 220, and the peak of it would be somewhere around the $375 per SOL. So that's that. I'm presently not in SOL because I want to see confirmation that this is going to actually reflect before I bump in. And to get that, I'd have to see it breaking this white line. So at some point in the next couple of days, it's going to go one way or the other. It's either going to pump through that white line, or it's going to dump down and continue its journey down to find support, probably lower down here. So that's SOL, and that got me interested in the whole DeFi market. And in the DeFi market, I was switching horses many times. I bought some ETH, which I did some analysis on, and it looks like it's going down. So let's do some of that. ETH USD. The interesting thing about the DeFi market is you can play two different horses or two different sides of the equation at the same time. In this case, it was Ethereum and SOL simultaneously, and I'd have to do a whole video on DeFi. But the cool thing about that is that it doesn't matter which one goes up or down, as long as their net value kind of stays the same between the two, you're actually accumulating wealth. So here's what I have on. It's a lot of lines. Sorry. Here's what I have on Ethereum. And when I saw that it was breaking on the 12-hour, I was like, oh, got to get out. So I did actually, I got out over here, which is weird because I didn't do it right away, but I got out and then it continues its dump. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to recover. It just means that this combined with Bitcoin going south means it's not really a good time. Now, if you were coming in and it was close to here, or it just reflected off of this support, then that might be a better time to get in. But if you just reflected off of resistance, that's never a good time. So that's Ethereum. The other ones that I want to talk about, they're very small Litecoins. This one's really cool, and I found it in the DeFi market. One of my friends told me about it. It's really exciting because it combines gaming, online gaming, with currency that has actual value in the real world. Normally, the games that are out there right now, they have their own tokens, but you can't exchange them for real goods in real life. Now, this one right now, you can buy materials off of the you know off the site using USDC, but you can also sell your stuff for USDC, and you'll be able to earn rewards. It's much more complicated than I can even describe right now. The token name is Polis, so if you want to go check that out, it's called Polis. Excellent game. It hasn't even begun to come out. It probably won't be finished for the next 5 years, but a lot of opportunity there, and they're combining gameplay with NFTs, with currency that's real world. So it's very exciting, and it's right now it's very cheap, and it's going to get cheaper in the short run. And let me just show you the chart on that one. So yeah, it looks like a straight down line. Now this happens often when you have a brand new coin where there's so much excitement, it goes up, goes up, goes up, and then it does this kind of settling down phase where it starts off really high and it ends up really low for a while, and then when there's a release of information, maybe there's a a game they can play, like a mini game, or some hits the news or something, that's when it starts to pump and it starts to return. So probably not a great investment in the short term, but in the long term, expect it to hit higher than $20. So if you don't mind waiting a couple years, then buying it at any price right now is good. Ideally, what I would do is if I didn't already own this coin, and I'm using this as one of the DeFi's that I'm using, which is a whole other game, I would wait until it kind of like flattens out for a while before I start investing in it. And it's following this downward trend line right now, and there's nothing to say where it's going to end. People have to decide, or maybe some news comes out, or maybe the mini game comes out, and then suddenly that will be the base, and then from there it will start to climb. So that's Polis. The other couple coins that I wanted to talk about was Grape, which is Great Ape, and it's a support network. I don't fully understand it, so you have to do some research on your own. But it stands for Great Ape, and it's the infrastructure support token for the Solana network. And it has a lot of interesting applications. I just like supporting networks, so I bought a bunch of it. I think it's great. The other one, and this one I purely did on it based on who's involved. The people that got into Parrot. Now Parrot has a huge amount of funds that are being supplied to it. So right now, I think it's like $500 million. I'm not really sure. I have to check it out. But they were able to raise almost $80 million, so 70 something $1 million, um, through their token release. You can actually buy the token right this minute for less than round two or round one or round two of the token. It's probably about 2 cents right now. I bought some at both token prices, so you could buy it for half of what I paid for it. And I think the reason for that is because the market took a dump just as they're doing the IDO. Also, Sol, if you remember, had an outage for 12 hours. So the combination of those two things has suppressed the price. Normally, when token release happens, it goes up 4 to 6 times right after the release. But in this case, it actually went down by half. So if you're looking for something as a long-term investment, this might be something to look into. Again, not advice, just simply what I'm doing. Now, the people that are backing it are phenomenal, huge companies, and these guys in particular have succeeded in investing in many offerings that took off. So that's what I have for you today. A bunch of small stuff. Oh, Orca. This is another one. Sorry, I didn't even mention this one. I was holding this one, and it's gone up 3 times from when I first started getting it. But I got scared when I found out that Sol was going to take a dump farther. So I dumped my support for Sol, which I regret now because it's gone up multiple times. Now this one's interesting because it's just got an amazing UX. If you're into DeFi, you got to check this one out. It's very clean, and I just like how it's set up. So I can see them getting a lot of adoption, and they're brand new. Like, I mean, they're not that old. So with what they're doing already, it's going to be pretty impressive when they finally roll out big time. So that's everything I have for today. Good luck.